Welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Shorts, where today we're going to be talking about what we promised. Ta-da! Yeah, that's right, folks. The pointy stick of destiny has found our target, and what a target it is. Now, in the garden, it's an Egyptian onion, it's a shallot, it's a leek, it's none of the above. That's right, folks. Today we're talking about Allium cernuum. Cernuum? Damn near killed him. Yeah, I know, old joke. Can't help it, kids. Anyway, the common name for this plant is nodding onion, though sometimes they're called lady's onion. I'm not too keen on that second one. It smacks a little bit of sexism, so I'll skip. But anyway, it's in the Liliaceae family, which all onions fall under, including garlic, which is actually an onion, so to speak. Now, this plant is native to America and Canada, or essentially North America in general. It is hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8, which means out here in 8A, we're pushing it in Fayetteville, but it is a perennial. Now here's what's interesting about it. It takes a soil pH of 7.2, which is on the more towards the alkaline side of things. You might want to break out that lime before you plant them. Its exposure is full sun to part shade, and you may want to play that carefully because onions are notoriously susceptible to overheating when it's really hot. You know, a few years back I tried to grow shallots. Wasn't successful. I've also tried to grow ramps, our local variety of onion, and it wasn't too successful. Because of our heat, I think, and possibly I wasn't doing something right with the seeds. But its height can be anywhere from 1 to 2 feet, depending on which resource you consult. Some say 1 to 1.5, some say flat out 2. I guess it depends on if they're fully counting the flowering stalk. The width can be up to 6 inches, or a half foot. So they're narrow but tall. So think rectangular overall when you plant them in the garden. And since they're roughly circular because of the way the foliage arrays itself, you may want to plan that when you use them in the border appropriately. I think this, if it were ornamental, would be a great plant for massing because the colors are sort of a lilac-y color, but the stems nod and the flowers emerge pointing roughly towards the ground, hence the name nodding onion. Really cool stuff, but it only gets better, folks, you see. This plant, despite being primarily considered an ornamental, which is pretty darn negligent, also happens to be fully edible. Yeah, how about them apples, folks? Here's the interesting thing. If you're gonna harvest it like a domestic onion, you harvest the bulbs in the second year when they're big enough to eat. So that means shallot size or bigger. You can gather the leaves to eat in culinary pursuits in spring and fall, and you can actually eat the blossoms. Win, win, win. It actually can be used, the bulbs can be used in place of domestic onion, but you should be aware that they are much more pungent. It's sort of like ramps. It might be one of those things where you eat too much and then suddenly the oniony goodness comes out in your sweat and everybody else is going, "Oh God, my eyes are burning! Why did you send Captain Tear Gas in?" And yes, the original tear gas was based on the compounds in onions, which is why onions make you cry and so does tear gas. Now, here's an interesting historical fact. The city of Chicago gets its name from the Algonquin Indian name for this plant, Chicago. And yes, I probably mangled it. It's probably Chicago. Well, there's no pronunciation key for this, unfortunately, but you get the point. Chicago is named for an onion. That might explain a few things. Lol. Now, if you grow this plant and you want to freeze it for storage purposes, chop coarsely and blanch for 2 minutes, drain, then pat dry, and store in plastic bags. Make sure you press the air out. And that's how you store it for long-term usage. A little bit of this goes a lot further than your traditional, really pungent yellow onion. So be careful about how you use it. Taste test in recipes first and work out the right ratio. And as a final note here, the bulbs can be used raw, boiled, pickled, or as seasoning. So this native plant, how about them apples, kids? You thought the native was just for coneflowers and rudbeckia. Not quite. This native plant can be used in just about everything, and it's useful across the board. It's not just a neat, pretty flower, it's also a subsistence food, or a support food. Growing these for food is a thing, and you should do it, because, not taking politics, but I've been noticing gaps in the shelves at the supermarkets and other places lately, and between you and I get the feeling we may have another shortage. So be careful, folks. Think about those foods that'll help you survive. Also, consequently, if you smell like intense onions, I'm pretty sure COVID's like, ew, that one's nasty. Let's go affect this friend. I digress. As always, folks, if you like these episodes, please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It helps the channel. Hit up the blog. We're going to have new content, even though it's slightly delayed. And as always, keep them growing, and thank you for watching.